what a privilege it is for us to be asked to present at our fall conference. It is a wonderful opportunity, and Matt and I are both very excited to be with you. Our session is about pass rates, fact or fiction. As we start to think about pass rates, I also want to recognize that there are a lot of providers in here that just do continuing ed. You're probably checking out going, I don't think this applies to me. And maybe it doesn't apply to you, but I do believe it impacts you because the students that pass today are going to be your students in continuing ed tomorrow. So as we start to think about it, pass rates are going down, have been going down. Maybe they're coming up a little bit now that COVID's over and the drama, you know, the no exam has kind of passed. But the truth is, for the last decade, since the exam was bifurcated, pass rates have been going down, 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 down. And then we had COVID and Zoom, and some of you are still doing exactly the same things on Zoom or WebEx or whatever platform you use for your students that you were using in the classroom. And for those of us that were just in Candace's session, how's it working for you? And are you looking at your students' faces? Because when you look out and you see these people, you are not effective. So the question I have to ask myself as an instructor is, what am I doing to reach these people? What am I doing? You know, my students should be engaged. They're depending on me to give them direction and to pull them out of all that stuff. And now I have to reach them via the internet through a camera and a computer screen. How do we make that happen, Matt?
Well, I think we're going to have a pretty good conversation about that. But first, we want a little bit of audience participation, maybe trying to get an understanding of some of the numbers and, you know, maybe why this does apply to everybody in the room. So first thing we're going to do is work with Kahoot. So I'm hoping that you guys have downloaded the app on your phone, as we requested a couple different times, so that you can play the game. So you might want to get that out. And while you're getting that out, I'm going to set up the little Kahoot game here.
So this will be easy for you to get connected. And we're not using it through the Zoom platform. I want to think part of the problem was we were having some issues, and we just thought our technology might be more consistent if we had you play on your phones and Matt share it from his screen. And that's why we made that choice.
Right now, we got some students signing up, so that's exciting.
Yep, they're all coming in. Look at those. If by chance you don't know how to use Kahoot, or you haven't downloaded the app, it's okay. You can still answer the questions and play. You just won't show up on the screen and be part of the overall score report.
Hey, Kim.
The numbers, the race.
Hey,
it's Stephanie Walker. If they didn't download the app, they can go to kahoot.it and they can enter the game pin there.
Okay, kahoot.it.
Yes.
Thank you.
If you downloaded the app, where do I put that code in?
If you go down at the bottom, you'll see 4 little squares in the middle of the screen. Tap on that. It'll bring up a thing for you to put your code in. Great question.
And we're just waiting till we reach 200,000 because that's what our license is for. So once we have 200,000 people in the room, we'll be good to go.
I have a question, Matt. Can they join Kahoot even after the game has started, or you have to wait for everybody to get in?
I think they'll be able to play it later on. But I think once we get started, I think it kind of locks its way in.
Ooh, who's Mystery Girl?
You can join after it starts. Sorry, the information will be in the bottom right corner of the game. They can still join once it starts.
Okay. So we're gonna give 30 more seconds. So hopefully we're all gonna be in there.
And you will notice that some of you used your name, some of you used aliases. This is a great way to let your students be anonymous. They can create their own name as long as they don't tell anyone what it is. they can have some anonymity when they miss the questions.
All right, so we're gonna press start to kind of get this going. We do want you to answer as quick as possible. If you've signed in, make sure you answer. Otherwise, it goes for the full time.
How long are you giving us? A minute?
So this was on my son's advice. When you cut it too short, then people don't get a chance to respond. And so depending on someone's lag in technology, he was adamant that it had to be long enough to answer and not, he's competitive. I don't know where he gets it from. He's competitive and he doesn't like, you know, losing points or not being able to answer.
So he's dictated the 60 seconds
Yes.
and he's in charge. As he
Pretty
should
much,
be.
yeah.
Yeah.
Why not? I mean, he knows technology. They're using it more often.
Yeah. Okay,
in the-
good answer. Thanks, Matt.
All right, so it looks like we're pretty close to 100 people here, right, that are in here. So this will be a nice little percentage. That is actually true. So what's the number, Kim?
63, I believe.
63 instructors currently are at risk of losing their licensure this next session because you have to have 40% or higher to maintain your license. And if you are below 40% for 2 years, then you risk losing your license. I'm going to try to go through the scoreboard a little bit quickly. We'll cheer on people afterwards. So the big question is, what is your pass rate? Do you, as an instructor, individually know what your pass rate is? Unfortunately, only matters for the pre-licensed folks because we're the ones that are kind of being judged on first-time passes. You know, we're not checking effectiveness for necessarily for that the post-license or the CE side. So, do you know if you're one of those people? I think we're learning on, you know, how paint dries as we wait for people to answer. I did see there was a question about whether or not you can delete old Kahoots. Yes, you can. I ended up deleting a few the other day. Does Bill have his hand up? Or just stretching? Or waving?
Yes, Bill has his hand up. Go ahead, Bill.
He's just stretching. So go Kim.
Remember, an ed provider will lose their approval if their pass rate is 40% or less for 2 years in a row. The issue is with an ed provider, it's just a matter of money, a new application, and potentially creating another entity to get back in the game. And, you know, while that's expensive and time consuming for the ed provider, the instructor whose pass rate is 40% or below for 2 years is actually sitting on the bench, I believe, for at least a year before you can reapply. So as an instructor working for an ed provider, you need to be thinking about the quality of material that you have to use in the classroom. What does your ed provider provide you? Some ed providers dictate you have to use this and you can't use anything else. And while that may be a good thing if they have high quality materials, what if they're not? And then a lot of you, like I have been in the past, it's up to me to provide my own materials. I have to pick them, I have to do them. So as an instructor, don't be
I'm
passive.
sorry, I cut you off and there's a question up, and it's only because they are now performing massive construction outside of the place, and I tried to hit my space bar to mute myself. I don't know if you can hear all of this.
That's all right. It's okay. But as an instructor, don't be passive. Be assertive and demand better material either from your ed provider or from yourself. You have to do it yourself.
Can you guys hear that in the background, or?
No, I just hear the music, Matt.
Okay.
Matt, we just hear a popping, but it's not obnoxious.
Okay. It's like major construction. So the joys.
Oh.
All right, so I can skip ahead. So somebody told me I can fast forward if it looks like people haven't answered yet or it's lagging. So an education provider can choose their own textbook. There's no approval anymore. And so you really can pick anything that's out there. And there are multiple books that are out there. I'm sure I could, try to hype our own personal textbook, the anti-textbook, the much shorter textbook, but I don't want to make it all about me and make it salesy. So I'll skip on from there. But you do have a choice, ed providers. You have a choice in the textbook that you have that you offer to your students, rather than being kind of stuck to two. Beach Girl's doing good.
Mm-hmm.
So you do have a choice.
This is my favorite question. I hope to get 100% on this one. Everybody get the right answer, I mean.
I feel like I'm like listening to popcorn pop in the microwave and trying to figure out when to stop it before the timer goes out.
Yeah, I'd give it about to 30 and do it. Yes, and in my opinion, less is more. And students are overwhelmed with the vast material. And while they need a lot of material, when we're talking about helping a student be successful on the state exam, if they're spending a lot of time lost in too much stuff, then they can't focus on the important concepts like Candace was talking about, agency. If you aren't spending quality time on agency so your students clearly understand those relationships, they are going to fail the exam. And likewise, offer and acceptance and basic contract law, that is critical. And I just know that as an instructor, it's in my nature sometimes to want to give my students everything that they might need to be successful. But the truth is, if I can focus them on the critical content, they will be more successful. And once they are licensed, then we can polish them and give them what they need to sell real estate and be successful in the field, but they don't get a chance if they don't pass the test. And critical content's important. And then how do you untangle the questions? If you don't spend any time in your classroom testing your students, teaching them how to untangle the complicated questions to pick out the best answer when they have 4 good choices, then those students are going to struggle on the exam as well. And as an instructor, they're looking to you to kind of guide them and help make sense of all of this stuff and clearly be able to untangle the questions. And another question to ask yourself as an instructor that I ask myself, if I'm going to teach my students how to untangle the questions, how often do I take practice tests? Do you take practice tests? And if you don't, why not? I think the best way to learn to test better is to test. We need to test ourselves. I take
How many
tests all
people
the
have
time.
taken, how many people have taken the PSI 500 question bank that they recently released?
Look at the hands. Good.
So, you know, kind of important to be out there and looking at what they have.
Yes, it is. Two answers
So-
are good, but one is better. Absolutely. Come on, y'all, answer this one quickly. Pass rates clearly demonstrate instructor performance.
There's some questions coming in about the PSI question bank, and I can get a link out to you guys. If you just go to the PSI site, they have it available if you search PSI practice exam. But we can put out a link for that for you later. All right, I'm gonna skip. Can you guys hear major construction in the background?
No, it's not bothersome. Go
So
ahead,
it
Matt.
doesn't sound like I'm weed whacking right next to you. It doesn't sound like that. Okay, good.
Right. Some things pass rates clearly demonstrate instructor performance and some don't.
So we can debate all we want to about this is not the proper measure. It doesn't adequately reflect me as an instructor. It's flawed because it's bifurcated and I get no points if somebody passes one versus the other, but not both. We could have those arguments about the validity of the exam, whether or not the questions are appropriate. We could talk about that all we want to, but we're in this box. We're stuck in this box of this is the way that we are judged on performance. So what are you doing about it? What are you doing to make yourself better as an instructor and then making sure your students are prepared? So I'm going to skip over, I missed the fact that, are you guys okay if we skip over the whole rah who won? Or, I mean, I know we're a competitive bunch, but I'm a little bit worried about time and just having.
Go ahead and skip forward. Beach Girl won, but we had three-way tie. I think those three all got them all right. That's pretty
Nice.
awesome.
This is your new president. If you need to go over about 5 minutes, you are perfectly fine. The conference will officially dismiss at 1:30 anyway. So I can make my notes my thank you a little short. That's not a problem at all.
Okay. I
I think our plan is to finish at 1:15 and stay on schedule. So go ahead, Matt Davies.
All right. I'm just switching back.
You're going to have to sign out of this Kahoot and sign back into another one because we have we have practice exams, and at Learn Test Pass, we have the ability we have a bank of about 1,200 questions, and we have the ability to see which questions are missed most. And so we are going to share the top 20 missed questions, and we're going to start, I believe, with state specific. Is that correct,
Right. So,
Matt?
yeah. So in all honesty, if we're talking about what's the big secret to success here, it's asking test questions. Students have to be able to pull apart the question, look for what is the most appropriate, pertinent information that I need. Coming down to just asking, what is the question? What is this question asking me? Can be important, because many times I kind of think that the psychometricians, psychometricians, the people that write these test questions, they play that game of shiny keys over here, but here's the actual question that we have. And you can quiz people all you want to. If you're not taking the time to provide explanations to them, it's a wasted exercise. So if you're just telling them yes or no, you're not giving them some detailed explanation, then they are missing the point. Okay. So make sure that if you're going to invest the time in writing practice tests and quizzes and those things, that you are giving detailed explanations to your students. That's the secret. That's the secret to success. So as Kim was saying, we have some problem questions. We're going to start with state first, and we'll see how people do, but we're going to need to log back into Kahoot, and you'll need to use a new code, and just give me a second to set that up. Switch back over. All right, so you're going to put in a new Kahoot. Some of it's just ending or going to next if you still have the app open. But basically, like what I see with students, they may be able to have a conversation with you about a topic. They may even know the vocabulary to it, but they don't have a deep enough understanding when they get to a question. So providing students with the most, the most practice. I kind of go back to like practice like you play, play like you practice. At the end of this, at the end of pre-license, you're going to take an exam.
I'm having a problem. Oh, never mind. I was having a problem. I couldn't see the screen. There it is. Oops.
So practice like you play, play like you practice. At the end of the course, you're taking an exam. And hopefully you're moving on to the license exam. So what should be a large percentage of our practice and preparation? Test questions. Getting these students to take as many test questions as possible. That way, when they get into the exam, they've been trained on how to pull a question apart, look for that specific info. I'm going to start this game here in about 10 more seconds, just in the interest of time. Janice?
Sorry to ask, my screen is asking me if I want to see my nickname on the screen, but then there's nothing there to swipe or touch on or.
We haven't started yet. We haven't started, so I'm going to start now.
So there's nothing I need to do.
Janice,
Okay.
it says, do you see your name? It says you're in at the top in white letters, and then it says, do you see your name on the screen?
All right,
Okay.
here we go. Hopefully you should see the questions now. Getting close. Got to answer those questions. Should I let it play out, or has the popcorn popped?
Popped.
So were you going to explain, Kim?
Oh, sure.
Or me?
To
No, no.
enforce these restrictive covenants and the protective covenants would require ultimately a civil lawsuit. I think your first step would be to complain to your homeowners association, but the homeowners association isn't required to take action, and sometimes they may refuse, but it only takes one owner in a neighborhood to enforce restrictive covenants. So, the answer that the majority chose was to file a written complaint. That's step one, but the question says to enforce, and it could take a lawsuit. So these are hard questions. Your students are missing them too. I'm glad to see a lot of folks didn't go with the zoning board or the clerk of court, but those are also answers students choose a lot.
Beach Girl's doing good.
I know someone requested that we don't do any chat right now because it is blocking the bottom of the screen. So if we could hold off on that, I would appreciate it also.
Okay.
You can close your chat.
You can also move the chat to the side of the screen.
So in this, there are some explanation slides that I'm just going to kind of pass over because I think we're going to talk about the question when we see it, but we do have it up there. We'll get to that in just a moment. But I like this because it's anonymous and then people have the time to answer and everybody there's the fast reader who can like jump right out of the gate to do it, but it gives everybody a chance to kind of go through. We got some interesting answers there. We always tell the students, what is the most important? You know, what is the highest priority? Property taxes and public special assessments. Property taxes, public special assessments, highest priority. So federal tax lien gets in line with everybody else. A lot of people kind of think the feds are going to have the highest priority. You get a chance to go in and gauge where your students are and see how they're performing, you know, when you're using Kahoot and these types of things. Or if you have a learning management system where you can go in and check by class, what are people missing? And you could tailor some of the study to them.
Matt, you just gave me a wicked aha moment. So thank you.
I can sure tell I haven't taught pre-license in a long time.
We're a special group.
This is Jim Fletmeyer. I'm sorry to interrupt everyone. I see some chat in the chat about not using the chat box. So let me say that you do, folks, I appreciate that. You have the ability to move and size all of your screens, including the chat box, and you can make people's faces smaller. And if you hover over anything that gets buried, it will come up. I see that's coming up a lot, but we kind of, unless we really don't want to discourage folks from communicating with each other, because there's been some great conversations. But if you need to, please look at your view button in the upper right corner and you'll be able to move things around as appropriate to make it so that you can see everything you wish to see. Thank you.
And we've got one hand up, I believe, and I can't tell whose it is on the wrong screen.
Oh, that was mine, but I just, rather than chatting with myself, I thought I'd get in trouble if I did because people didn't want us to use chat. So I interrupted you. I apologize.
Click the down arrow at the top of your chat box, it'll shrink.
Yeah. So on the zoning laws, when you have a change in use, then that's going to be a rezoning situation. Variance, usually minor and affecting one property, disproportionately impacting that one property, and they're asking for a minor change, not necessarily a change in use. So I try to kind of.
We've got several comments that this is getting their blood pressure up and their heart rate up. Think about what your students feel when they have to pass that exam or repeat the whole class, another 75 hours of their life, or they're at the state exam and it's another, what, $156 if they don't pass?
Yeah, and I take tests. I took the PSI exam. I will tell you, I scored between 85 and 95. I never got 100% on there. And I would kind of say I'm in questions a little bit or writing questions, so might be able to pull it apart. And it makes me upset when I don't get 100%, but that's me. I gotta know the music that's in Aisha's head.
She's hearing your little Kahoot tune.
The Halloween Kahoot music is even more fun than this.
We'll work on that next time. I think the popcorn's popped.
Let's call.
You got about 50%, 50-50 here when we're getting some of the other answers. So synthetic stucco, EIFS, always material fact, even after you remove it. I think we know that radon, the fact that you have a radon fan warrants further investigation. Radon being at 3.6, that's below the 4.0. And that polybutylene pipe or polybutylene, non-material fact unless it's leaking, right?
Or it has leaked. That's correct.
So we just have the kind of explanation. I want to try to get through this one little section. It does sound like the last kernels in a microwave, I'm telling you.
Yay. I am so excited that everybody or that the majority actually picked the right answer on this one. Provisional brokers and the broker in charge can practice dual agency. The only limitation is designated dual. And I have a lot of students that I see that miss questions on that. They will take the designated dual agency rules in North Carolina and apply those to a dual agency question, and they get the wrong answer. So nice job, guys.
And I think people can talk about it and, you know, they kind of, you can have a conversation about it and it seems like they understand it and you think your students are getting it, but when it gets to the testing side, they really struggle. And that is one of the number one mistakes. They read dual agency and jump to designated. They throw designated into the question. So at least that's what we're seeing. So we will see who won this one, I think.
Go Petra. Azzy.
We got to figure out who this beach girl is.
Beach girl. Go beach girl.
Yeah, well, I'm going to kind of jump ahead because I think we'll probably struggle for time a little bit rather than doing the national part. And we'll get to how you guys can access some of this shortly. If Zoom wants to help me.
Hey, Matt, can you speak to the learning curve and the setup time for this?
In terms of setting this up, it probably helps that you have questions. Are you guys still hearing the music in the background? I might have to just, yeah, I'm gonna just kind of close that and call it a day. Hopefully. It doesn't want to close. Okay.
You can turn the music down, Matt, in Kahoot.
All right, there we go. Thank you. So some of it's just going to depend on what you have access for questions. That'd probably be the hardest part. Setting up a Kahoot, create.kahoot.it. If you go to that site, setting up an account is fairly easy. You may choose if you want to spend money or otherwise. I picked, teacher and got the full paid version just to have the flexibility. But, some of it will be creating your own content or, to ask these questions. So that could take a little bit longer. We will have something for you though. So there will be parting gifts. We're going to skip over national for now. But if you go to kahoot.it, create.kahoot.it, you can search Learn, Test, Pass altogether, Learn, Test, Pass. And you'll have access to 4 of the Kahoots with the current problem topic question. So there's 5, 5 state in part 1, part 2. There are 5 national in part 1 and part 2 for national. So that website, create.kahoot.it. And we're going to keep that up there for you.
And just in case they didn't hear that, I'm going to repeat that, Matt. These Kahoots that you've just gone through, the last few questions, we got bonuses. I think Matt's got 4 of them set up, and he's making that available to you in Kahoot to use in your classroom. Just to say thank you for coming to NCREA and have you take some value away from our presentation.
The other thing, we made this available. So from Learn, Test, Pass, Kim being a part of that, Chris Barnett, Amanda Hollick, in terms of some of the question writing, we released practice exams that people could use. So I know that the commission had waived the exam requirements, but we came out and released completely free exams that your students could take. I think you could ask anybody in this room if they've received any marketing pushes or buy this course or anything else from us, and you haven't. So the student sets up an account, they get 90 days access. There's about 2 exams worth of questions, question, answer, detailed explanation. So that is going to be out there. It has been updated. We will continue to update it. That will be a free source. Obviously, we do sell practice exams as well and some of the end of course exams, but that's their choice. What was that? Am I getting yanked with the?
No, you go ahead.
So if you use the bit.ly link, the bit.ly/4, the number 4 pass test, your students have access, and you can do it as well. You get detailed reports, you get your score and how you perform by each category. Absolutely free, something that you can provide to your students so that they can make sure that they're prepared for the exam. Separate from that, we're doing what's called Learning Loft. And if you like Learn, Test, Pass on the Facebook page, it's free 2-hour kind of office hours. Kim does it sometimes, I do it as well. And we have students that just join in, ask questions, whatever they're struggling with. It's just free office hours. Sometimes we're making up questions on the fly, math problems that they want to try out, what have you. And that's usually every other Sunday, one coming up this Sunday between 2 and 4. If you want to learn more about kind of what our offerings are, organizedteacher.com. You have contact information if you want to learn about creating Kahoots. If you want to talk about anything, like you had questions about anything we did in the presentation, you want some practice doing some exam writing and things like that, we're here for you. And we're always looking for people to talk to and work with and collaborate with. So, questions?
And I have a question, if that's okay. I think someone else just put their hand up, but I will be the first to admit that, there are a whole lot of tools out there, and one that I've probably used the least is Kahoot. What about the pacing on this? And this is a question for both you guys. And I know there are people like Travis and Kelly that use it quite a bit. I've always found the challenge being to get the pacing right. I know you pick the timing, but as far as getting it so that it remains energetic, and what are some of the strategies to handle that, to make sure that it maintains some energy and some enthusiasm?
I think sometimes it just depends on how involved the students are. I think this is kind of just touch and go. test it out. How much time did they need? All right, how can I change it? Some of it, I wish that there was a 45-second, and because the happy medium between 30 and a minute. There's no 45-second countdown, and I think that would be perfect. But some of it is trying to get people geared towards their competitive nature, and you get more points if you answer faster to kind of trim down the amount of time and keep that energy up. I miss the days that we could put people into teams. That made it a lot more energy, and maybe in 3 to 5 years, maybe we'll get there.
This is Jim. I tend to set the timing to the maximum it allows. I think it's 120 seconds. What Matt was doing is I kind of watch for the popcorn and skip past when the popcorn slows down, but I set the students up, frankly, to say, this is a big chance to be competitive. Who's going to win, because I want them to rush during Kahoot as a learning lesson, that during the exam, I want you to read every single word. So I kind of set them up for failure in a way, because I want them to compete and rush so I can prove the point. You need to slow down during the exam.
And we have questions from Brenda's had her hand up for quite a while. Normally this is Kim's job, but I know Kim's doing another job right now. So we had Brenda has her hand up for a while, as well as Kelly.
Mine is just more of a thank you to Matt and Kim. It's so amazing to get people to share this stuff. I remember the first time that Kahoot was taught at one of these conferences, and as soon as I got home, I started playing with it, and the students absolutely loved it, especially in post-licensing. It comes in so handy because they're so much more competitive, after they're already practicing and whatever, and they get such a kick out of it. But Kim and Matt, this was awesome. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Brenda.
Thank you. Kelly?
Hey, y'all, it kind of got addressed, but I will add to that. Some students get really anxiety ridden with playing Kahoot, which I didn't realize for quite some time. So and now that I've played it myself for the first time on the other end of the side of things, I see that, like, my heart rate is racing. So I will say to my class, my Zoom class, I'll say, listen, if you want to play, you can play. Otherwise, for the next 10 or 15 minutes, work on this, study license law, or I give them an alternative activity. And I usually have a good 5 or so students who will take that direction and just work on something independently with their camera on.
Thank you for that, Kelly. And people do tend to stress if they want to be right, especially if you make them put their real names up there. That's why the aliases are so helpful, because you can miss it and be anonymous, which is important in an adult classroom and a child's classroom, I think, for students not to be shamed because they miss it.
And that is a great point. Thank you. So we have Miss Kim, Matt, thank you so very, very much. We have time for just one more question for this particular session, and then we will officially dismiss. So those of you who need to go do other things with your lives can, but the Zoom room will stay open for Q&A, and I invite all sponsor vendors and presenters to stick around to answer any questions or comments. But if it's okay with you, Miss Jerry's got her hand up, and I can speak from experience, is a wonderful person to ask the last question in a session.
I don't know about that, but anyway, wonder, have you ever used this as a review class, or maybe at the end of a class to recap for the day, or maybe to open a class?
It could be anything. So I think at any time you need some energy, you could have a few of them made up, just as a pick me up in different sections. There's no one way or the other. You can kind of go back and forth if you're looking for the low stress part. We've got poll everywhere. You have a little bit more flexibility in time. It's nicer when you have some of the group stuff. We don't have that, but to help some of the students with maybe their anxiety and things. But I kind of use it at different points.
It's a great question and great answer. Thank you so much, Matt. Thank you all so much. Let's give all of our presenters today a round of applause. Y'all give them a round of applause. Yay! Yay, woohoo! That's